Thanks for having me. And thank you everyone for having me. I saw some sweet comments welcoming me back. And that means a lot to me because I'm just in my home in Washington, D.C., and you all are out there, and we're here to connect in the space-time continuum and create this sacred Zoom room together and be here together, maybe not physically, but definitely spiritually. I'm emotionally connected to the oneness of the world. So I care a lot about spiritual and sacred time. I'm actually quite obsessed with it. It has become an incredibly important healing and well-being practice for me to understand that today is, like I forgot on the Roman calendar, Friday, April 29th, 2022. And that's how I know to show up to work at the right time. It's know how I met you all at here. And also it's the 28th of Nisan, 5782. And that's actually happening right now. It's 12:35 in Washington, D.C. on the 28th day of Nisan, 5782. Mark it for the record books. We're all here on Zoom together to lift up this moment in time that allows us to connect to all of our ancestors who've been in this, 28th of Nisan in a previous year, and also anybody that will come from us. They will also have this marking of time and the opportunity to drop into what this day allows for us to explore as spiritual seekers. And I want to talk a little bit about what's going on right now and then save time at the end to do our practice of just being with our breath, being with our souls, being with the divine, and being with each other. So today is the 13th day of the Omer, Yesod, and Gevura. For those of you who have done this practice with me before, you know I love crowdsourcing in the chat box. Let's get some collective wisdom out there. If you all could just type in to the chat box what your interpretation of what Gevura is. I know you've been with it all week. There's some esoteric concepts. It's hard to explain in English. I would love for us to just put down our collective thoughts of Gevura. Wise boundaries, bravery, strong holding, strength, discernment, balanced boundaries, happy, restraint, resilience, inner strength, presence, figuring out what is my strength, compassion, firmness, the riverbanks, the awareness of the other, vulnerability. Yes to all of these things. This is the week of Gevura, which is all of those things. And today is Yesod, which I'll throw out there as a definition about foundation. So today's focus until sundown is about the focus that we have, the foundation that is required for our strength. And so I ask you, Without the Well, the organization that I founded and run, we have a daily text message that goes out during the Omer, and I'll just type into the chat box what our message was for it. And I also want to ask you all to think and consider what are some things that are foundational to your strength, to your boundaries, to your resilience, to your discernment. Perhaps I invite you to think about, is it friends? Is it spiritual teachers? Is it a physical practice that you have? Is it eating your vegetables? Is it remembering that you're not alone? Think for your second. Let's take a couple breaths there. What is that you're focusing on that is the foundation for your strength? Meditation, music, breath, community. So you have this to think on until tonight when it becomes Shabbat and we move on to the next day of the Omer. Also, we're at the end of Nisan. Nisan, this month of Passover. the actually beginning of the Jewish people, the opportunity to connect to one of the oldest stories on earth about us feeling our personal selves, stepping in from a narrow place into an expansive place, being part of a whole history of people who've been doing it ever. Springtime, budding, cleansing our body, making sure to balance the bread of affliction and the bread of freedom, matzah, for a week, as we consider how we can step into more freedom. This is the month of freedom of Nisan. Starting this weekend, we're going to be going into the month of ER-IR. And the month after that is the month of Sivan. And I think this group knows that that means that we're in the time of the Omer, the spiritual ladder that climbs every day for 49 days until you get to Shavuot, our highest opportunity of freedom. And what we're doing right now as spiritual seekers and awareness of time is they're using the Omer to climb ourselves from the bottom of our freedom, which is Passover, all the way to the most expansive part that we can get for Shavuot. And this month of ER that we're about to go into is the month, we call it the healing month. Because in order for us to go from a narrow place into the most expansive place, we have to do some serious healing for ourselves to allow ourselves to break out from what has been holding us back and really step into our opportunity. So, how did I get ER to be a healing month? Well, the letters for the month are Aleph, Yud, Yud, Resh, and together it's an acronym for the Torah verse, Ani Yud, Yud, Rofecha. I am God, your healer. So this month we have the letters of this message to us that says that God is here, and for the purpose of this spiritual time, this moon cycle, should you choose to take it on, you can be in relationship with the divine that is about your healing. And I want to invite us today to consider, what are the foundations of my strength that I need? How can I tap into that as I go into the month of ER? That's about opening myself up to the healing capacity of the divine and everything that comes with it for ourselves. No surprise here, the thing that connects us is our breath. The way to connect with our soul, the thing that we have to help us be alive while we're on loan from the earth. And so I want to invite us to drop into our practice now, to explore the breath as the foundation for your strength, and at the same time, an opportunity to connect with the divine as a healer. This group knows what to do, but if this is your first go round, ground your feet to the floor. Find your breath. Drop your jaw and let a big breath out. Try it again. Feel free to keep breathing out with your mouth open the whole time. I'm inviting us to use our breath as a focal point, as a foundation for our strength and our resilience. And as a way to allow the divine to interact with our body to be a place of comfort. Explore the parts of your body that are tight and constricted, and see if you can bring your breath as the healer to that spot. Even if there's pain there, the breath can still be there as part of the wholeness. Just inhaling and exhaling. For the next couple of breaths, see if you can bring your exhales with an attention to your shoulders, your neck, and your spine, and see if you can just relax them a little bit more. If you notice that your mind is wandering at a rapid speed and you're looking for a thing to hold on to, I invite you to explore taking a journey through your body with your breath as the healer. And see if you can start from your toes and go all the way up through your head, bringing that breath to each body part. And if you prefer to go from the crown of your head, the keter, and start from there and go down, you can explore that route too. It's the 28th of Nisan, which means we're still in this month of bursting into our freedom, but we're rounding into the corner of this month of healing. What do we each need to do in order to prepare to go into that place, that month of being open to the divine as a healer? You can't just rush into the spa. You got to get ready for it. Inhaling, exhaling. With each breath, you can say, I am God, your healer. Knowing that in Jewish wisdom, we don't even have a word for God. We have 72 attributes to describe something. That's the oneness that's undescribable. Each breath can be like that. It's undescribable. It's just a felt sense. Makes our whole bodies work. Inhaling, exhaling, inhaling, exhaling. Well, the next few moments, I'd like to just invite your attention to the fact that you're in your own physical space. At the same time, on the 28th Nisan of 5782, with 200 other plus people that are just in their space. And consider sending some breath and some compassion and some love and some healing vibes and some freedom vibes to the other people who are part of this collective moment. I'm calling in the spirits of Mordecai and Mike, who were here in honor of today. If we could send a couple of breaths to those people, their souls. Keeping your eyes shut, take your hands together, rub them together really fast. Bring some friction and some heat, some earth and some spark. Get it faster and faster and faster. Get really hot in there. Create some energy that's in you. And when you're ready, place those hands on any part of your body that you want to bring some healing to. And take some breaths there. And allow yourself to be nourished. This is our month. Invite it. Don't skimp on our healing. We've been through a lot. And when you're ready, you can lift the corners of your mouth to the sky. You can lean into your computer a little bit closer and give that smile to some of the other people who are out there that are just being a human being with all the rest of us. And I know that we wish well upon. Happy 13th day of the Omer. Thank you all so much for having me. It was a total joy to sit with you. And I hope that something resonates and you take it with you. And if it didn't, then it wasn't your message to hear today, and let it just pass on. Mark, thanks so much for having me.
Always wonderful, Sarah. Thank you so much. It was just great. Just great. Friends, we seal the practice as we do every day, offering an opportunity for those who are in mourning, or if you have a yard site, or if it's your custom to participate in Kaddish, to do so. And you can put the name or names of those you're honoring today in the chat box if you'd like, either now or after we recite Kaddish. For those who are not reciting Kaddish, you can just stay with your practice and offer that same love and healing energy towards those who are, or towards yourself. And if you are reciting Kaddish, I invite you to join me now by rising in body or in spirit to recite the words together. Yitgadal, Yikadash, Merabah, Bialma, Dibra, Kidute, Biamrich Malkute, B'chayechon, Yomechon, B'chaye B'chol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agalah, Uzman Karev, V'Yiru, Amen.
Amen.
Yehesh Shmei Rabba Mevorach Le'olam
Maya.
Yitbarach, Yistabach,
Yishtabach,
Yitpa'ar,
Yitramam,
Yitramam,
Yitnaseh,
Yithadar,
Yithadar,
Yitalel,
Yitalal,
Yitalal, Yimei Kusha, B'yichud,
Yichud,
Ba'ela, B'kol Birchata,
B'Shirata,
B'Shirata, B'Chata, B'Nechamata, Ba'amiram, B'Halma, B'Yiru, Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba, Shamaya, Chaim Aleinu, V'Yalko Yisrael, V'Yimru, Amen.
Amen.
Oseh Shalom B'Romav, Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu, Kol Yisrael, Kol Yoshei Teva, V'Yimru.
Amen.
Friends, thanks so much for joining us today, and for this 13th day of the Omer, to sit in Shabbat together. If you're leaving us now, I want to just remind you, please join us next week. I put in the chat box a lineup of our teachers for next week. Wonderful teachers leading us, beginning with Cantor Heather Batchelor on Monday. I do want to, of course, invite people, if you'd like, to stay on for some conversation with Sarah Waxman about today's practice and about her work with At the Well. and about the new month of ER, which arrives tomorrow night. For those who are leaving, I want to wish you a Shabbat Shalom, a sweet Shabbat, a sweet end to the month of Nisan, and a beautiful entry into the month of ER. And we hope to see you on Monday. And I want to, of course, thank our sponsors for today, Maurice and Sherry Gluckstadt, who sponsored our practice in loving memory of Mordechai ben Reuben Tzvi and Mike Ellis, Zichronan Libracha. May their memories be a blessing always for you. And thank you so much for supporting us today. And of course, thanks to Will Priest for holding our tech space so beautifully and with so much skill and grace every day. Thank you, Will. For those who have questions you'd like to put to Sarah, please put them in the chat box. I am also going to put the link to the website for At the Well project that Sarah created and leads. Maybe talk about that a little bit too. I'm going to keep an eye out in the chat for questions. Sarah, thank you so much, as always. A wonderful embodied practice, and just want to appreciate your transparency and vulnerability and connection with everyone here. And I really was taken by this idea of ER being a month of healing, and connecting it, at least for those of us, I guess, in the northern, everyone thinks, oh, it's spring. Yeah, if you're in the northern hemisphere, it's spring. But there's something about the arrival, and of course this year it coincides with the arrival of May, which always seems to mark for me a transition right into hopefully really warmer weather, really feeling the more sun, more warmth, the greenery. It's just like really coming to life. I really appreciated the reminder to think about this as a healing time, not just a rebirth, which sometimes we think about it, right, as a healing time. So I wanted to invite you to talk a little bit maybe about, because people are not that familiar necessarily with the work, what you're doing with At the Well. And I want to let people know that when you put it, when you go to the website, you can download a manual of practices for the month, one of which I noticed really had to do with nature, like sort of immersing in nature, noticing plants, developing relationships with plants in the natural world. So maybe talk a little bit about, just to back up a little bit, like what At the Well is trying to do and how you're doing it.
Yeah, my favorite topic.
Oops.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can. That
Okay.
was my end. Sorry.
Yes, my favorite topic. And I will try to answer those questions. And also I know that there's some questions coming in, and I get so much nourishment by being here with you all each month. So I'm happy to see some familiar faces smiling at me right now. And just know that I actually love the question and answer time. So I'm happy to be again here with you. So I'm the wild woman who decided that starting an organization was my path. And really it came from a deep sense of feeling like there was information that was there and has been here all along that I didn't necessarily learn in my Hebrew school or my kosher home or my summer camp experience. And that has to do a lot with understanding spiritual time and the Hebrew calendar as a well-being practice for myself, a daily practice, and also particularly focused on the cycle of the months. This idea actually that Rosh Chodesh, which means new moon, is the first commandment in Torah. The very first thing God commands the Israelites to do is to mark the moon, because the difference between being a slave and a free person is our own ownership of our time. And as a Jewish people, it's Nisan. Hello, everyone. We've just been born as a Jewish people. We're free. We didn't always were free. Not everyone on the planet is free right now, but we're free. And we got to remember that. And it's actually part of our spiritual practice and part of what we're doing here on earth in order to help be in relationship with our freedom. It's a core part of our spiritual practice as Jews. And I was sort of very emotional when I found out about Rosh Chodesh, and that actually in the medieval ages, it was elevated to being a women's holiday by rabbis like Rashi, sort of, a big hitter over here. We're big into what Rashi says, and Pirkei Eliezer, and in the medieval times, Rosh Chodesh was elevated to being a women's holiday. From there wasn't that much codified or written down because it was women, the owners of oral Torah, and the men were writing down the written Torah and the laws. And we're reflecting on the fact that there was likely some sort of gathering that was honoring those people. I wasn't raised with this awareness of Rosh Chodesh at all, and I have spent more than 10,000 hours in Hebrew school. And when I discovered Jewish time, Rosh Chodesh as a ritual for myself, and then all the learnings that has come from being in relationship with monthly, sort of the awareness of time and monthly practice, and doing that in community, I have gained a lot of more awareness for myself, a deeper connection to my own Judaism, my own spiritual practice, and a sense of belonging. So I feel really passionate about At the Well. Its mission is to enhance women's well-being using ancient Jewish practice. One of the core work that we do is to teach the cycle of time and the months. We also lift up a network of women's circles for women and also non-binary folks who meet regularly around Rosh Chodesh and are in sacred community with each other. And if you're interested in that, can't wait to talk to you. It's been my life passion. I've been doing it for almost 7 years, and proud to take At the Well from just a little newsletter into a website, into a program, into our own 501c3 organization. So that's the framing of it. I'm really interested in the time, and the time right now is freedom into healing. And I'm happy to answer any questions about that, but I did not invent that. That is God and Judaism, and just an opportunity to practice our Judaism by being in relationship with sacred time.
Well, you didn't invent it, but you're doing a wonderful job of lifting it up. And I want to just, say, congratulate you and say kol hakavod, because, creating something, having a vision, creating it from scratch is like, in my mind, it's an amazing accomplishment.
You can thank Queen Esther for it. She has fully possessed me. I'm just an offering of a vessel of something that has to pulse through, and whispered enough times in my ears that I was the right person at the right time with the right opportunities and the right privilege and the right education to do something. And it's a real joy and honor to get a chance to see it ripple out into the world.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the things that's interesting, I think, Sarah, I really, of course, agree with everything you just said, is this idea that we are also living in like multiple cycles at the same time. It can be confusing for people too, right? If we have the monthly cycle, right, that you're describing, and then you have the holiday cycle, and you have the week, we have the Torah cycle, and right now we're in the Omer cycle as well, right? Each week being different. So I guess
for seekers, this is like our time. We've made it to the March Madness. Like this is like the time. Our
cycle season.
We have been ready for this. And actually, if we know the Hebrew calendar, obviously, just like the waves, just like my body, it goes in cycles. This is Jewish time. Mm-hmm. We're gonna go through this time of freedom, healing, and then the biggest expression, the revelation, which happens at Shavuot. And then, sorry, this is not a surprise ending because it's been happening for 4,000 years. But in the hottest time of the year, we burn it down. Things get crazy. The month of Tammuz happens. The walls of Jerusalem break down. We have a fasting period. Then we have Tisha B'Av, the saddest time.
Spoiler, we have to put a spoiler alert in here. Just for people.
The good news is that it's a cycle. And that after all of that destruction comes the month of Elul, which is about returning to ourselves, forgiving ourselves, and actually, again, is a moment where the acronym for the month is a catch-all for having, unlike this month, which is God is our healer, by Elul, it's God is our beloved. And so it's in this time, and stepping into the awareness of that has been a powerful experience for myself, and that's fuels a lot of the work that we bring forward. I see a chat box about like men in Rosh Chodesh, and I just want to say that God offered this commandment to us upon leaving Egypt for all people of all bodies, of all genders, of all colors, of all socioeconomic status, of all everything. It's your opportunity to be in Rosh Chodesh. Look at the moon and do a song and do a dance and recognize your freedom. At the Wells work is targeted towards folks who identify as women and also non-binary people. And that's just because we're a little itty bitty passion project that could, and hopefully in time we will continue to expand. But I hope the resources that are on our website that are open sourced and available for all about the month could be used for anybody that's looking to cultivate a Rosh Chodesh practice for themselves.
Yeah, they're terrific resources and beautifully presented too, by the way. So there is a question here from Mirror. Oh, that's a good question, a big one. How do we look to God for healing of ourselves and the world? So, like, I think you threw something out in the course of the practice, Sarah, about experiencing each breath, as an ER breath, right? Just a reminder, which I loved. I thought, well, that'll be a good intention for the whole month, to bring awareness to the breath and to think about that as I'm being healed, I'm being healed, I'm being healed. This is healing, this is healing. But maybe how would you respond to that question? How do we look to God for healing of ourselves?
I laugh. I love it. We could talk endlessly about this. We need 8 hours uninterrupted to even get to the first part of it. And likely there's a lot of wisdom collected here. So there's no real answer here. It's really a personal practice. It's a personal journey. Judaism offers a lot of opportunities for each person to explore for themselves and also to be in relationship with others about it. So collective care, individual responsibility of seeking the divine and looking for it, and in a context of collective care, which is what we're all here doing. In terms of breath and God, I mean, God is not something, I don't go about my life thinking that God is something that's outside of me. If everything is one, then I am part of it. If I'm created in the image of the divine, then I don't need to look that far. It's in my modani when I wake up in the morning. Maybe you find God in your bowel movements. Like, that is literally a prayer that our teachers teach us to say, like, it is, how is my body doing? How is my family doing? How am I doing? God is in that. God's in relationship. Not just me. It's about the I, thou. It's a relationship of us. Like, how are you and me doing together as a friendship, Mark? Like, God's going to be in there. How am I doing with my own authenticity, my own truth, my own making sure that I'm nourishing myself, that I am for myself, and that I'm not only for myself, I'm also for the community. And that I don't delay too much in those questions before I'm doing the cycle of learning, contemplating, and then action. Learning, contemplating, action, rest. Like, that's the cadence of Judaism. And I think that somewhere along that journey, there's the divine. And it's likely enough of the divine to help us through the moments that we're in. And also God is also all that really hard stuff. And that can be hard to sit with. So that's why I said we needed like a lot of time to unpack, because first we have to understand what God is.
Yeah. And just want, if I could tack on a little piece, because I think, of course, there's always a situation that comes up when we deal with prayers for healing in Judaism about, like, well, what happens if there's no cure? What happens when, where's the healing there? And I think it's probably important just to mention that when we're talking about healing, we're not necessarily talking about curing. We're talking about experiencing presence and not being alone, and calling for, there is healing too, conjuring up and supporting and directing healing energy. And where there can't be a cure, there can still be healing. And I think, I imagine that there are probably people here too who, I know there are, where there may not be cures for situations, but there can be healing.
And okay, here we are, the Jewish Institute of Spirituality, and we wouldn't exist if it weren't for Judaism. Obviously, we also wouldn't exist without the work of MBSR and John Kabat-Zinn and bringing contemplative practices into our secular society enough for us to be exposed to it. And the original place of where we see some of these contemplative practices coming into society in the United States happened in hospitals, in pain reduction classes, MBSR, mind body stress reduction. Like, that was a really, really big idea 40 years ago, 50 years
Mhm.
ago. And it took a lot of work to get in there. And also it was a surprising place to go, considering that these people are living in chronic pain. So like, what is there to do? It just is.
Yeah.
It is. Adonai means to become.
Mhm.
It is just I'm living in chronic pain. That
Mhm.
is something I also, for me, I came to meditation practice after having some serious injuries myself. And so it's not like we're solving for it. It's just what happens with the insert of the breath and the awareness that the breath is connected to something bigger than ourselves, which is spirituality, which for us here, a path into that would be Jewish rituals and Jewish tradition. And
Yeah.
I think it's reflected very clearly in this month
Yeah.
that um, there's a time for everything. And this time is to be focusing on what do I need to be doing in order to get myself to the highest version of myself. And likely that means healing. It means massage. It means walking. It needs therapy. It means being honest. It means taking time to be showing up here every day at noon to breathe with everyone. It
Mhm.
likely means a lot of different things. And I think in doing that, there's a sense of self. There's intrinsic leadership that shows up, and that when you do that for yourself, like everyone else around you falls into it.
Mm. Well, thank you so much, Sarah. As always, just wonderful session and wonderful to be with you, and also
Mark, I
wonderful
got a
to speak
lot
with.
of private messages. Can I just say that
Yep.
for folks who are interested in staying connected, like you have the website of the organization that I run, send notes there, poke around a little bit.
Mhm.
My team is here to help and um, be in relationship with you all and be creating and bringing this work forward. The relationship that At the Well and Institute Jewish Spirituality have to each other is so important because it takes a whole field to be bringing forward these concepts, not just one, two organizations. It takes ourselves turning and turning and turning for our generation and saying in Nissan 5782, we need
Mhm.
to be sitting on Zoom breathing.
All right, we have to end it there. We're over time. So thanks again, Sarah. Thank you all
Thanks,
for
Mark.
being here as always, and wishing everybody Shabbat Shalom and a Chodesh Tov, a fresh start for ER and a healing month for everyone and for our planet and for this world. And we hope to